All right. Hi, programming bootcamp students and participants. Welcome to the bootcamp. You probably know this website. You probably read it. It's about the programming bootcamp. I'm Yoni. In this video, we will speak about the tooling that you need for the bootcamp, about what you need to install, and how to get ready. So you need a laptop when you come to the bootcamp. If you somehow don't have access to a laptop or have a problem with yours, please write to us ahead of time and we'll see what we can do. And on this laptop, you need to be able to install a couple of things. So as you know, we're using the Python language. There are many ways to run Python. Our recommended way would be using Jupyter and Spider. So these are two ways that we'll speak about, and also perhaps a bit of just a command line terminal. You'll play with that along as you go through the bootcamp. So these tools are available if you install something called Anaconda. So if I click this link and I go to Anaconda, this is the installation page for Anaconda, which is free. We're using the free version of Anaconda. And the web page knows that in my case, I'm on a Mac machine, but you might be on a Windows machine or on a Linux machine, and then you download. So you download and install, and this installation is quite standard. Just choose the basic options, read the agreement if you want, etc., etc. Try to install Anaconda. It might take anywhere between 10 minutes to an hour for it to install. And once you get that, then you'll be able to launch Anaconda. So let me do that in my case. And I'm launching an application called Anaconda Navigator. Now, if you want to read what Anaconda is, go to the Wikipedia here. For example, Anaconda is a Python distribution. These guys really like snakes, I guess. Anaconda is a form of a very big snake, very big Python. And it's a free distribution, but there's also a commercial version. Of course, we're using the free distribution. It kind of gives you a lot of things together in one go. Of course, you don't have to use Anaconda. You can install Python in different ways, but that's a recommended simple way. So I've launched here this Anaconda Navigator. And what it is, it's a navigator. It might look overwhelming because it can open a whole bunch of stuff. And trust me, I don't know what half of these things are. I heard about IBM Watson Studio, but I think that's old technology, whatever, leave that. But basically, we'll be using a few of these so-called apps inside Anaconda or launched by Anaconda for our purposes. So what are we going to be using? Well, we'll be using either Jupyter Lab or Jupyter. You can choose. Jupyter Lab is a bit more friendly. I'll show you both right now. And we'll be using an integrated development environment, IDE, called Spider. You can use PyCharm as well if you'd like, but we'll probably use Spider more. But of course, you can go and choose. And in Anaconda, when you have this running, then let's try and run one of these things. So I'll actually launch Spider. So this is launching the application Spider. So again, Anaconda Navigator is just a tool there that helps us kind of launch something else. And Spider is what you call an IDE, Integrated Development Environment. It's sort of an editor where you write your program and also a place for you to run the program. It also offers some debugging and things like that. So we'll spend time in the first lesson and throughout looking at some of the things in Spider. But the basic thing that you have here is on the left, this is a place to actually write a Python program. So let me write some Python, I'll call it a command. In this case, it's a function. I'll write print, hello, bootcamp people, exclamation. And if I click this, well, it ran this file and it executed that command, hello, bootcamp people. Or if I want to do something a bit more, I'll do for I in range 10, colon, and then indent this and run it again. And it did it 10 times. Okay, so it did a loop and did it 10 times, and you'll learn all about this. Okay, so this is a Spider environment, and that's one way in which you can run Python. Now, as this pops up, I get something like Spider 5.43 is available. You have 5.41. So we're missing out on some latest features. Of course, we won't use all of the features. And it says, important note, since you install Spider with Anaconda, please don't use pip. Now, pip is the standard Python package manager. So Python has a whole bunch of packages from the web that you can install. Some of these packages are applications. Some are things that you just use in Python. Pip is one major package manager. A different one is Conda. We're actually going to use Conda. So it says, since you installed Spider with Anaconda, Conda is from Anaconda. So Conda is the package manager of Anaconda. Please don't use pip to update. So don't worry, we weren't going to use pip. Instead, run the following commands in a terminal. So you might see this and you might think, oh, what is a terminal? Well, in this bootcamp, you'll use a terminal a bit too, just to get a feel for a terminal. Now, on a Mac, a terminal is what I get when I run terminal like this. The terminal is how you can write commands like copying files, looking at files, etc. And I can put the commands there for a terminal. So it's telling me, please run conda update Anaconda and conda install Spider equals 5.43 in the terminal. On a Windows, a terminal looks different. It's a console. It's a command line console, and it's a bit different. But anyway, I'm going to ignore this because I'm quite content actually with 5.41, 5.43. I'll live without, so I won't run the terminal. So main point here is we're going to get all kinds of messages, etc. Some of them we need to care about, some of them a bit less. And there's not always one path to do things. Okay, so first thing we can do is get Spider going, and that's great. The application of Spider is going, and I'm going to now quit Spider. Save, no. The second type of thing we'll run using our Anaconda installation is a Jupyter notebook. So let me launch now a Jupyter notebook. Now, Jupyter notebooks run inside your web browser. Spider was an application that had its own windows, etc. But Jupyter notebooks run inside the web browser. So when you run Jupyter notebooks, a window like this or a web page like this opens, and it's actually being served. It's not going from anywhere from the internet. It's going from localhost. Localhost is on my local computer in port 8890. That's not so important, but the point is that this is something that's running locally on my computer. In other days, after the bootcamp, you might connect to other computers and run Jupyter over the web. But at this point, we're running it locally on our computer. And what I see here, I actually see all of the files on my computer. So what I'm going to do in Jupyter is I'm going to hit new here. And when you hit new on your computer, you might not have all these options, because here I have all kinds of things installed. I have the Julia language, I have R, I have all kinds of other things, etc. But you just might have some Python. Okay, so I do new and I run Python. And we're actually running Python 3. Python is now at version, I forgot, of 3.11 and 3.12, but we're in the world of Python 3. Years ago, there was Python 2. There was a difference between Python 2 and 3. There's some incompatibilities, but we're deep into Python 3. So anywhere, if you do version 3.9, 3.10 or beyond, you're okay. And this is what a Jupyter notebook looks like. Jupyter notebook. It's like a notebook that you write on, but only on a computer. Okay. So on this one tab here on the left, I have all kinds of files. And here I have a Jupyter notebook. I can change the notebook name, and I'll say my first notebook. Yeah, I like to put underscores in file names. Putting spaces in file names can be problematic in certain cases. And here you have a cell, and I can actually write some Python code. So again, I'll write print, open round bracket, hello everyone, exclamation mark. Now, if I go here 2 arrows to the right and hit enter, nothing happens. I can just write more commands. Well, that's not what I want to do. So to run cells in Jupyter Notebook, of course, I can hit this run, but I will actually do a shift enter. And that just executed that cell. Okay, so that's a Jupyter Notebook, and we'll be dealing more with Jupyter Notebooks. All right, so let's see. We can even leave this thing open, go back to Anaconda Navigator. The last thing I want to show you, and that's another setup that you might use to run things, to develop things, to code things, to run things, to play, to learn, is Jupyter Lab. Jupyter Lab, by the way, some people say Jupyter because like Python, Jupyter, but I'm not so sophisticated, so for me it's just Jupyter. Okay, so Jupyter Lab is just like a Jupyter notebook. It only kind of contains a bit of an IDE, an integrated development environment type theme inside your web browser. So here, when I ran my Jupyter Lab, I could open a whole bunch of different notebooks, again, because I have a whole bunch of stuff installed on my computer. In your case, you might have less and create a Python 3. And again, you have a Jupyter notebook and same thing. And print, is this the same? Question mark. I guess it pretty much is. But I can copy files, rearrange files, etc. I have a little menu here inside my web browser. So Jupyter notebooks are very powerful, useful for scientific computing and for other things, also for development. Jupyter Lab is a way to organize some Jupyter notebooks together. The integrated development environment is a different thing. And one last thing that I should probably say is some of you might want to work also in VS Code. So VS Code is Visual Studio Code. That's an editor. An editor is just a place where you write text. But VS Code is a very strong editor. It's become kind of a state of the art in many ways. And it, because it has many plugins and can do a whole lot of things. So a lot of developers and scientists and people work these days in VS Code. We probably won't use VS Code so much, but rather Spider. But I just want to say that VS Code is there too. And of course, there are other options. Now, finally, if I now open a terminal, and you'll see how to do this on your computer, depending on what kind of computer it is in hopefully the first lesson, I can also run Python like this. And just hit and run Python. Now, this is Python running inside the terminal. So Python is a programming language, but it's also an environment that runs the code that I give it. Okay, and it's actually quite a simple programming language in a sense. It's interpreted, it interprets line by line, etc., and it runs this code, but it's become one of the world's most popular programming languages and does a whole lot. The most popular, pretty much. Okay, so again, print hello once again. And it just ran this Python command. That's it. You want to exit, exit, open, close, run brackets, enter, and I've exited, I've stopped Python. So many ways for us to run Python, many ways to play around. If you manage to do a subset of what you've seen here, just to run something and print something before you get to the first meetup, the first lesson of the bootcamp, you've done well. If you just come with your laptop, that's also okay. You can install there, but the installation can take about half an hour. That's not the end of the world. Okay, see you at the bootcamp. Looking forward. I hope you are too. Bye.